Chapter 1. I was born in Washington, D.C., at Columbia Hospital for Women. They say the first child is the experiment, so I'm glad mom and dad learned through me how to navigate dealing with my other siblings. I grew up around people, a huge cultural clash centered around Nigeria, England, and the Americas. Although it no longer exists, Columbia Hospital for Women in Washington, D.C., it was a hospital that brought fond memories to my parents. I remember several things: daycare at the age of 3 and my best friend at the time, Michael. I recall swimming pool days, winter snow, playing with the neighbors' kids next door in Silver Spring, Maryland, chasing after summer butterflies, using the garden hose to spray the neighbor's motorcycle, spaghetti and donut dinners, showing affection and speaking to my youngest male sibling, and moving from different houses within different neighborhoods within the United States. I remember the occasion. I wanted to bring my new best friend Michael home. I presented him to my dad and expressed my desire to bring him home. Dad, smiling, said softly, "No, Alice, he can't come home." I hadn't remembered the incident until Mom retold the story to Auntie years later in London, England. At the time, I was around 10. As children in daycare, we had lots of opportunities to go on field trips. On one field trip, an odd gentleman who I had never seen before sat beside my best friend Michael and gave him advice about women. He warned him about the dangers of befriending women and getting too close to them. As Michael and I listened on to this gentleman, I realized my friendship to my best friend of several daycare months was coming to an end. I was sad but realized this was the closure he and I needed because in a matter of time I would travel to Nigeria, Africa. In daycare, I also had friends from different nationalities and had another best friend who had a physical handicap that impeded her from straightening her limbs and running with her peers. She was unable to keep up with the kids in her age group and oftentimes was the last to catch up to us. I remembered on one occasion waiting for her at the bottom of the stairwell as she made her way down slowly. I loved going to daycare and loved going to the swimming pool. Mom at the time was learning about the American culture and food. She was going to cooking school and the university. It must have been challenging for a non English speaker to have taken on a culture and language different than what they are used to experiencing. I'm so grateful for the spaghetti dinners and ketchup and donut dinners. Something I didn't miss much of as I was growing up was the spoonful of liquid I consumed at a young age. I remember drinking a strange substance my mom used to give to I and my brother to drink. It had an awful taste. Countless times as an adult, deja vu would occur, and the smell and taste of the liquid I was given at a young age would leave me wondering what it was I consumed as a youngster. I found out years later, as I was eating olives, I was given olive oil to drink. I and my sibling were given a spoonful of olive oil daily. There must have been a special reason why Mom had given it to us. I don't recall us ever getting sick in her care. So a spoonful of olive oil did have health benefits when taken in moderation. In a world where children's opinions hadn't yet formulated, I knew it didn't have an agreeable taste, but couldn't bring myself as a child to say no and refuse to take it. Another time I was given oil to taste was while I visited my grandfather in Nigeria, Africa, between 1985 to 1988. Palm oil in its raw form is orange in color. Oftentimes, I had the opportunity to suck on its orange fruit, but when some of it fell on the ground of my grandfather's living room or parlor, I was coerced by my relatives to lick it from the floor, which I did. In response, who cheered at my humble gesture. I grew up around people, Africans, Europeans, and Americans, and many other cultures in between, and grew up to love people and the cultures they came from. I still look back and remember friends were comprised of people from different nationalities. The beauty about being a child is being in part colorblind, and allowing oneself to be infused into everything that surrounds them, such as daycare, swimming pools, loyal friends, and birthday parties held at school. Despite the many friendships I formed during childhood, I couldn't retain them because my family was apt to move to different homes or countries due to diplomatic reasons. I remember living in different homes due to dad's diplomatic status, the spacious homes, a car, and the chauffeurs, and of course, unlimited access to daycare. I remember when I was 2, stretching out my hand and metaphorically growing into a new person. As a child, I felt I was somebody and was a somebody in the universe with a lot of significance. I grew up with 3 precious siblings. We were born close to birth. Exhilarating days involved Daddy taking pictures of us, asking me to pose for the camera, and video recording of our childhood days. Perhaps it was his way of savoring the moment, enjoying something his father hadn't done, or something that wasn't of custom in his village. He came from a village called Arochuku. Chuku in the Igbo language is the name for God.